Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Newman. I serve as the Administrative and Citizen Science Coordinator for the Sitka Center for Art and Ecology, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to tonight's resident talk. Sitka is located at Cascade Head on the north central Oregon coast and resides on the unceded traditional lands of the indigenous people now represented by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians. There is much to learn, as just one step you can take, especially when planning a visit to Sitka's campus or the coast. We encourage you to visit the Grand Ronde Chichalu Museum and Cultural Center to see. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the first of tonight's residents. Elliot Gordon Mercer is an interdisciplinary artist, performance scholar, and arts therapist. He is currently an American Council of Learned Societies Emerging Voices Fellow at the University of Chicago, where he is jointly appointed in the Department of English, the Committee on Theater and Performance Studies, and the Center for the Study of Gender and Sexuality. As a visual artist, Elliot is a McDowell Fellow, a Yaddo Fellow, and a Lucas Artist Fellow at the Montalvo Arts Center. He is a graduate of the Tamalpa Institute's professional training program, Expressive Arts Therapies, and he received a PhD from Northwestern University. Please, wherever you are, join me in giving a warm Sitka welcome to Elliot.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm really grateful to the Sitka Center for the invitation to be a resident artist this spring and for the opportunity to work out here on the Oregon coast, as well as for the opportunity to share my work with you all as a part of this series of resident talks while I am out here on the Cascade Head. I am Elliot Mercer. I am an interdisciplinary artist, performance scholar, and expressive arts therapist. I work at the intersections of performance and visual art. And in my creative practice, I interweave artistic, somatic, and therapeutic modalities. My process is intensely self-reflective, and I actively mine my own felt experiences, those sensory emotional understandings that arise within me with a peculiar and palpable urgency. My work is always rooted in the body, in my body, but the output of my creative questioning shifts between dance, drawing, installation, film, photography, poetic writing, storytelling, and academic scholarship. My artistic research utilizes performance as a process of imaginal thinking, integrating associative structures of perception, sensation, memory, experience, and creativity to examine how we make and remake meaning in our lives. Today, I want to talk about the project that I have been working on at Sitka, Tide Fog Cycles, and share some of what has been guiding my creative investigations over the past week that I've been here. Tide Fog Cycles is an interdisciplinary project that explores the cyclical time patterns and movement progressions of nature. Working introspectively, I move with these cycles to examine themes in my own life and to investigate my personal mythology as a therapeutic modality and as a ritual practice. I am particularly interested in myth and ritual. Myths invite you to enter what is unknown, to explore and explain the phenomena that unsettle your usual ways of thinking and knowing and being, reorienting you towards a new state of consciousness. A ritual is an enactment of the myth, propelling you forward. Ritual has the intention to confront a specific life issue with the purpose of bringing about a transformation. It is something bigger than yourself that challenges you into action, working through you. And when you work with an issue because it's unresolved, you can discover new possibilities. In the summer of 2021, I journeyed to the Pacific coast to perform a ritual, a score of transitions and passings. I had experienced the death of a mentor whose innovative work with dance and the environment in the San Francisco Bay Area had been foundational to both my teaching and to my creative practice. As a dancer and expressive arts therapist, my resolution to process this grief through art was not only intuitive, it felt imperative. On the beach at Sea Ranch on the Northern California coast, at the intersection of Land's End and Day's End, I moved with the comings and goings of nature to reflect and process, to mark her passing, and to move with my own memories and my own feelings. When I departed, I knew instinctively that this ritual was also a beginning, the initiation of a much larger creative act that would draw me repeatedly and emphatically back to the Pacific. I'm currently based in Chicago, but I'm originally from the West Coast, and the Pacific is home. Over the past 2 years, I have been returning to the Pacific to process unfolding experiences of loss and mourning, the unexpected death of a collaborator, the dissolution of my marriage, the murder of one of my former students, the disappearance of a friend in a hiking accident. The Pacific continues to hold my grief. My work involves a turning toward and tuning in to natural cycles of durational experiences in situ. My creative practice responds directly and immediately to the environment through an immersive process of watching and listening to the movements that surround me on the beaches, headlands, and coastal forests. This cultivates, for me, a heightened awareness of the physical and sonic landscapes, both external and internal, which guides my development of sonic meditations and performance scores. Tide Fog Cycles has unfolded as an ongoing series of scores for rituals that respond to and with the coastal environment, the gradual shifts of fog, the tidal inflow and outflow, the seasonal growth phases of kelp, the tide pool crabs that recycle the shell homes of turban snails, driftwood that appears and disappears from the shore, the lichens that gather on old trees, the groundwater that weeps out of the bluffs, all bringing me to a deeper understanding of myself and what is present for me in my own life. Shoal Drift, a ritual for Soshi Gokhan Caroline Meister, Green Gulch Farms and Center, Muir Beach, California, March 2024. Gather the accumulation of heavy rains, breach at the mouth, purge forth into the merciful ocean, drift on deep knowledge transcendent, like the precious dragon jewel, shine as the emerald sea, 108 times, ancestral kindness, diamond root. Recently, I have been spending a lot of time with dead wood. I've been sketching dead trees and thinking about their stubbornness, their refusal to let go, refusal to accept things as they are, and how they continue to cling to the image of themselves as they once were. At Sitka, I have been extending this interest within my current work, gathering inspiration from the spruce trees that are stuck in the estuary marshes, and collecting images of the driftwood that appears on the shore, thinking about its textures and designs as invitations for movement, and thinking of their patterns and shapes alongside my own contemplations of drifting, being adrift, moving between, and arriving on a different shore. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Elliot. We are very honored to be the container for your work as well as your grief. So thank you so much for sharing that. Our next presenter, Marita Dingus, is an African-American feminist and environmental artist who was born and raised in Washington State. She continues to maintain her childhood home in Auburn, where she raises goats, chickens, and 2 cats. Marita attended parochial school, where the nuns encouraged her talent, using mimeographed copies of her drawings as images for her classmates to color. During high school, her brother-in-law questioned why she never drew Black people, awakening her self-consciousness. Marita attended Temple University and studied abroad in Rome, where she was exposed to ancient Roman and Renaissance art. After earning her BFA, Marita enrolled in a study abroad program in Morocco. This firsthand exposure to African art resulted in her changing from painting to sculpture. Marita travels whenever possible to Asia, Africa, Europe, and across North and South America, harvesting inspiration and ideas that can be incorporated into her art. Marita, we were so glad to be able to host you this past month at Sitka. Welcome.
All right. My art, it's hard to see, but this is a glass jar, and inside the glass jar is disgusting plastic. I became an environmentalist probably as a child because in Washington State, there was something called Keep Washington Green. And this was back in the 60s. And you didn't litter, and you really wanted to keep Washington green. This was the thing. And I internalized it, and I took it very seriously. I grew up in a 7-acre forest, which is the home I get to live in now and keep as my studio. So growing up in a 7-acre forest, you really appreciate nature, and you don't want to see it spoiled with plastic. So anyway, and then between undergraduate school and graduate school, I worked for the Department of Ecology in Washington State. I was a road crew supervisor, and I had teenagers, and we would pick up litter off of Interstate 5. And I did that for 3 summers in a row, either 2 or 3 summers in a row between undergraduate and graduate school. So when I went to graduate school, I had gone to Morocco and decided, I wasn't going to paint anymore. And then I had all this junk I had picked up off the freeway that I took with me to graduate school. So even though I was in graduate school to get an MFA in painting, I said I wasn't going to paint. And I wanted to make art out of all this plastic and disgusting stuff we picked off of I-5. And my graduate committee said, sure, because this is the Bay Area, San Jose State, and there was all this found object art in the mudflats between Oakland or Berkeley and San Francisco, but all that art is gone. But it was there because San Francisco has that Haight-Ashbury and that whole hippie thing. So anyway, I make art out of stuff that would usually get thrown away. Now this plastic is in a glass jar because plastic, gosh, I read something that said plastic will last anywhere from 500 years to 1,000 years, but that's only if it's buried, because if it's exposed to sunlight, it breaks down into tiny little pieces that eventually get into our oceans and waterways. And I'm sure you all know about the plastic island, right? So anyway, so I put my plastic in these glass jars. Glass will last forever. Glass will never break down. And that's what they do with the nuclear waste at Hanford. They put it in these glass tubes because it's toxic to the environment. So, my thing is plastic is really toxic to the environment. So I put the plastic in these glass jars. Another example, so it's just your standard little glass jar, and it's stuffed with black plastic in this case. So I make these little figures, and I make a lot of them, but then I also make gigantic figures. The largest is a 60-foot long reclining Buddha as an African enslaved. It's at the Tacoma Art Museum right now. That came from a trip to China where I saw a 60-foot tall Buddha. At Art Fair in Seattle, I had a 25-foot tall person and then some shorter people. And it was an installation at Art Fair. I think there was a total of about 8 people ranging from 25 feet to, I think the shortest was maybe, 12. And they were all made from plastic, which is what I go after now, is plastic, because it is so toxic. I wish they would outlaw it. So, and then I make little tiny, so I'm always making figures. It's always out of recycled materials. I've been doing this since 1983, 84 probably. I'm at the end of my career. I'm 68. This is getting old. My hands hurt, but this is what I do. Okay, I'm done.
Marita, thank you so much for taking us inside your practice. Sometimes over the arc of the residency season, the Sitka team will notice connections between residents that are just really special and we could not have planned even if we tried. And this seems to be the year of hosting artistic duos and also residents who plan to work individually but pivoted to collaborative projects with other residents once they were here. So our next presenters are one of these collaborative duos, musicians Esther Saulle and Laura Kuhlman. Esther started playing the recorder at the age of 7 in her native Switzerland. Since then, she has performed with many music ensembles and groups, including the Oregon Renaissance Band, the Cassis Ensemble, the Orchestra of the Moon, and the Portland and Puget Sound Christmas Revels. In addition to the recorder, Esther plays various Renaissance instruments, including the crumhorn, viola da gamba, and others. Apart from playing various gigs and continuing to take varieties of music classes and attend music workshops, she's been giving private recorder lessons to children and adults in her Northeast Portland home for the past 20 years. Laura Kuhlman resides in Portland, Oregon, and up until 2014 was active in Chicago, Illinois, where she spent many years as a freelance musician. From Bach to Broadway, Laura has enjoyed partnerships with several early music ensembles, including the Burgundian Ensemble, Masked Phoenix, and the Too Early Consort. She founded and led the Milwaukee Renaissance Band from 2009 to 2014. Laura has performed for the Portland Revels and with members of Pifero for the Washington, D.C. Revels. In December 2022, Laura played for the Portland Revels Children's Show on recorders, flutes, and bagpipe. Welcome, Laura and Esther. It was a treat to host both of you and be part of your musical and electric biking adventures here at Cascade Head.
Hello. Are we on? I think we are. We're going to play a tune for you. So that was a tune. Esther probably says it better than I do because she has a really beautiful accent.
No, don't. Imperiavits de la ciudad choyosa.
And that was a tune that was part of a book called Libra Vermil, which is in Spain, north of Barcelona. And the book was developed as a way of bringing the pilgrims into the church by taking the tunes that they played outside the church on their way to the pilgrimage to Montserrat. And they thought, wow, these tunes are a little too secular. You know, they need to be tamed down a little bit, and we're going to put sacred words to it. And that way the lay people could feel like they had a connection with the church. So one of our projects over the time that we were at Sitka was to develop a concert that we're about to do here in Portland in May, and it's called Cantigas de Santa Maria.
It's a collection of songs that were written in the Middle Ages, 1200s, collected by a king, El Savio. There are 400 of them? How many?
There's 452
452.
or something like that, yes.
And they all talk about the Holy Mary and the good things that she did and the things that befell her. So that's what we do.
And we have a band here in Portland. It's called Musica Universalis. And we take this music from the 12th century on into the 14th, 15th century, and we bring it out of the shadows, so to speak, and bring it to audiences that you would probably not go to an early music concert.
That's right. We sort of work a lot too with the theater groups. We do devised shows. So somebody comes up with an idea, like, let's do something for Halloween. Sounds easy, right? And then we said, but it couldn't be just regular Halloween. It has to be somehow the history of Halloween. How did it come to America? And so we went to the Irish folks and sort of pierced the veil and saw how many stories we could have reenacted by puppets and underlined by
an
the
actress.
music
Yeah.
and the actress.
And so the band doesn't just play background music. We actually become quite involved in the show.
Yeah.
And this was our second largest production. The first one we did was called Danse Macabre, and it was the testament of Francois Villon, who was a 14th century poet. And we used a French actor, Jean-Luc, and Esther's husband. So, and
Who is
then-
a theater director?
Who's a
so he
theater
kind of
director, sorry,
Put
yeah.
it all together.
And and the night we opened, COVID closed the world down. Yeah, we had raised quite a bit of money to put that show on, and our doors were locked due to COVID, but reopened 18 months later, sold out shows. I think people were really thirsty for entertainment. And when we think about the kind of music that we play, the instruments that we play, we want to bring, like I said, bring that to different kinds of audiences. And by doing theater work, and we actually play in pubs, we're playing at Mississippi Pizza on Monday. I mean, we just kind of get into some interesting places to perform other than just on a stage. You know, not that that's not a good thing, but it's just not kind of what we do. And we usually end up having audience participation, so that, and the audiences are usually small. We like to stay in small venues so that people feel like there's a real connection with what we're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just really enjoyed that aspect of playing this kind of music.
Yeah, and while we were at Sitka, we were on Grass Mountain. It was amazing. We just could sit down and play, talk about our next shows, get the ideas written down, learn new instruments, which we did.
Yes.
It was very, very special. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to just kind of, shut it out, all, the noise of the world out and really focus. And I hope that every artist gets a chance to do that sometime in their careers, because it's really very refreshing to be able to have time away so that we could really focus on what we wanted to accomplish this next year. And we have a show coming up in November that we while we were at Sitka, started the formulation. Starting with the actress that's writing the show, and it's about
Veronica Franco, a Renaissance courtesan from Venice. While she was a courtesan, she was a poet. She was highly educated. I guess you had to be a courtesan to get highly educated. And there's many interesting stories about her. And the show is called Veronica in Bed. A little racy, maybe.
But we got a grant from Shaking the Tree to workshop this in November, and then with the hopes of, as usual, finding the money to put on the full-scale production. So in July, we're going to be together with the director, and there's 3 actors, and then the band, and we'll be, working on the show. Like I said, we not only play music, old music or ancient music, medieval.
But we also try modern ones.
We do modern stuff. We've done an ABBA tune.
We have done Kurt
Weill's, Georges Brassens from France. And we use our old instruments to play those. We don't turn around and then pick up flutes and saxophones or anything like that. We use our recorders, our crumhorns, our shawms, my bagpipes, Esther's viola da gamba. I mean, that's what I think is kind of interesting about what we do, is bringing this music. We're very respectful for the music and for the instruments, but we do try to give it a little bit of twist and turn into our own interpretations of what we believe the music was really all about in our perspective.
That's right.
Because as you know, with anything, it's all a matter of perspective. How do you come at it? how does Elliot come at what he does? That somebody else might do the same thing or similar thing, but come at it from a different direction. I mean, I love the collaboration. We got to meet the other artists.
Yeah.
And that was kind of fun.
Yeah. And the collaboration also in our theater pieces, right? We are also a little bit kind of old, right?
Old.
So we try to do young generations and old generations. We try to sort of mix it up.
Yeah.
Trying to sort of corrupt the world with early music. And for that, we would need young people as well. So that's sort of our goal, so to say, right?
Yeah, and we're also wanting to work with schools and bring our instruments, and not just, recorder is taught in school, but we want to do more than that. We want to introduce them to this kind of music and all the instruments that we play too. So that's another thing on our radar.
That's right.
I think that's what we have.
I think so.
As Marita said, that's what I got.
Thank you so much, Laura and Esther, for taking us inside your practice and for playing live for us. I see t-shirts in your future outside the gigs, racy recorders, pizza, and puppets.
There you go.
Yeah, I can see it. Our final presenter of the evening is Edem Soul Music, aka Edem Garro. Edem is a world-class vocalist, performer, and multi-instrumentalist currently living in Omaha, Nebraska. Edem is originally from the East Coast, and a large part of her music focuses on the creative content that comes from a place that can only be described as her soul. Edem defines sound by utilizing the 12-plus instruments at her disposal, from harp to ukulele, guitar, and various forms of African percussion. Edem sings in English as well as in her native tongue called Ga, originating from the Ga tribe of Ghana, West Africa. Edem is a 13-time Omaha Entertainment and Arts Award nominee. She is a 2018 OEAA winner for Best Soul and 2020 to 2022 winner for Outstanding World Music. After completing her 2017 residency with the Union for Contemporary Art, Edem became Omaha, Nebraska's first Capital District musician in residence. Edem usually resides in the Midwest, but tonight she is here with us at Sitka. Welcome, Edem.
Hey everybody, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. And so I'm trying to think of what to share that hasn't kind of been said. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, you're an artist, you make art, talk about yourself. And you're like, ah. So like Marita, I wish I had just an object, to place here to show you kind of what I do, but my stuff exists sonically. And so a lot of my work that I've done in the public sphere, I'm a musician. However, I find that the work that I do is oftentimes appreciated in certain spaces that are more accustomed to fine arts. And so I consider myself to be a fine arts performer, but I am someone who doesn't like how inaccessible fine art spaces are to the general public. During 2017, during my residency at the Union for Contemporary Art, I remember I had a mentor from New York who was talking about this museum effect. I don't know if that's the proper name, but that's how I remember it. And it's this sense that people who have been blocked or people who don't have the access to these types of spaces, once those spaces are placed in their neighborhood or they're told that they can attend or approach these areas, it's kind of like, oh, well, that doesn't really look like it's for me, or I don't really feel like I belong there. And I'm like, art is a language of humanity, for humanity. Any and everyone should be able to find or have some form of accessibility to it. And so I take my music all over the place. I work with many nonprofits back home in Omaha, and I also do shows, whether it's at our local theater or other performance venues. When I partner with these organizations, sometimes they take me to people to neighborhoods. And I love those types of performances because they get to people who may not get the opportunity to leave their neighborhood to experience art in this way. They get a chance to hear someone singing in multiple languages, playing different instruments that they probably don't hear in their everyday life. And that makes me just so happy. And so there was this project that I was awarded a grant for titled African Body, Soul, and Movement, featuring traditional dancing, contemporary dancing. The work was focusing on how we as human beings, while we were all in the womb, we had one sound we were surrounded by, if not our own heartbeat, but the heartbeat of our mother. And so that was the sound, that do-doom, do-doom. That was the sound that was cultivating our entire existence until we were able to enter into this world and follow our own heart, which is the rhythm of our own existence. And so when I think about that, I'm like, there's a rhythm that permeates all of us. And whenever and wherever I get the chance to let people or show people, I guess the way I can't force anyone, but show people the way back to their hearts, back to their minds, to reconnect with themselves and reconnect with others through music. Oh, I feel like I'm like just on cloud nine. So this is a performance that I'm going to show you called Joy and Peace. I started as an improvisational artist, and one thing that I really wanted to convey during this performance was joy and peace. This was for an organization called Streets Alive. And what they do is they host performances in neighborhoods or places to promote accessibility to the general public. And so I'm playing next to a playground. There's tons of kids everywhere. But I feel like this video is very poignant when it comes to how I feel and the importance of integrating art, music into the hands of everyday people, because art is for the people. So I'm going to share that with you.
Thank you, Edem, for playing for us. Thank you, Elliot, Marita, Laura, and Esther for presenting tonight. Thank you, Sitka community, for tuning in. Good night, everyone.